I don't think America has ever gone back to the way that it was before the DC sniper.
A man has been killed in front of me.
The gunman, most likely a skilled marksman, fired 6 times in the course of 16 hours.
He was a psychopathic, cold-blooded killer.
From iHeartRadio and Tenderfoot TV, this is Monster, DC Sniper. The first 2 episodes premiere on January 2nd. Subscribe today on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant, excepting Alice. You can.
This is Peach Blossom, singing Arlo Guthrie's Alice's Restaurant theme song with my dad. She and my dad have been friends since they were in the iconic hippie cult classic movie in 1969.
Well, you can get anything you want at Alice's restaurant. At Alice's restaurant. Hope that's not going anywhere public.
That was awesome.
My dad thought I should chat with her. Now, he didn't know if she'd been involved in the smuggling industry, but he was pretty sure she'd have something interesting to say. And he was right.
I remember one time we had a bunch of weed, and I think it was like on this seat, and it was in a bag or something like that, and we had to very quickly get rid of it. And we had a dirty car. We had, cartons and bags all over this floor. At the moment we had to get rid of it, all I did was throw it on the floor under my feet. And so the cop made the driver get out of the car, and he was being really shitty to him because he was real blown out, long hair, and I'm just sitting there waiting, and he comes around, he opens my side, and he's like, "What's that?" And I had a bag of hair. I had cut Billy's hair, and I had a bag of hair on the floor.
Oh, my God.
And right next to it, under the other foot, was this big vat of very bustable pie. And I said, "That's hair." And he said, "What are you talking about? That's hair." And I said, "Hair, hair, hair, hair. See, hair, hair." And the guy was so grossed out and so like, "Hair? Who drives around with a bag of hair in their car?" That he just like, "Go away, you're disgusting," and left me alone and didn't ask me to raise my other foot.
Oh my God.
I mean, shit like that.
So as we've been making this podcast, my dad will keep having revelations that people he knew in the old days and thought were straight were actually smugglers as well. Just the other day, he ran into an old Mill Valley neighbor who revealed he'd been tabbing acid in the 80s. Dad didn't know because, like him, everyone else was private about their business dealings too. One of those people is Candy Can.
You were never meant to know that I was a pot dealer, but I came out of the closet pretty violently. I got busted with just a horrible scene.
This is Candy Can. I've known her since I was about 9. She's the mother of one of my childhood friends from the hippie theater community I'm a part of. Although I've known her forever, Candy Can and I have newly become friends in my adulthood. I always vaguely knew she worked in the pot industry, but it wasn't until she finished sharing her unbelievable tale with me that we realized she worked in the same network as my dad. They had inadvertently worked together for over 20 years and shared the same close friend colleagues, the same people who were our super close family friends while I was growing up. We were all surprised, especially my dad, who sort of knew Candy Can from a distance, but thought she worked with a different smuggling ring.
Where is she?
They ran into each other at a hippie theater reunion party recently, and it was incredible to watch my dad and Candy Can talk about the old days. I'd never seen my dad talk openly about his former business in semi-public with anyone, ever.
So how did you meet these guys? Because you're not a New Yorker, are you?
I was a hippie.
Well, that part I know.
And I was, I had this a store in Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, you moved minimal in Boulder.
And they asked me to come to New York.
In this episode, we're uncovering the stories of Peach Blossom and Candy Can. Their stories are incredible and illustrate how this world we lived in and my dad worked in was incredibly small and interconnected. and totally secretive. They tell daring tales about smuggling, being a woman, and mothers in the industry. And like my dad, what they gained and what they lost by working in vintage cannabis trafficking. I'm Rainbow Valentine, and this is Disorganized Crime, Smuggler's Daughter.
Rolling a doobie, young, free, and groovy, making it up as we roll along. Rolling along, far out country road, feeling great in the Golden Gate, dodging the law up in New York State, making it up as we roll along.
I don't think America has ever gone back to the way that it was before 9/11 and the anthrax attack. The fear was really that there would be a second wave of attacks. And then along comes the DC sniper, and all of the country's worst fears are realized.
A man has been killed in front of me.
The gunman, most likely a skilled marksman, fired 6 times in the course of 16 hours.
They killed the 5 people in one day and then went on the rampage for the next month.
The police say they have never had a crime quite like this. It is quite a mystery.
It was scary to go to the grocery store or fill up your car with gas.
I do believe he was brainwashed, for lack of a better term.
He was a psychopathic, cold-blooded killer that can never walk the street again.
From iHeartRadio and Tenderfoot TV, this is Monster, DC Sniper. The first 2 episodes premiere on January 2nd. Subscribe today on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
We've talked a little bit about the 1969 movie Alice's Restaurant before. Alice's Restaurant is a hippie cult classic movie based on the hit folk song by Woody Guthrie's son, Arlo Guthrie. The movie was written and directed by Academy Award-nominated director Arthur Penn, who also directed Bonnie and Clyde. Alice's Restaurant, the movie, is a satire about government bureaucracy and the draft, following the main character, played by Arlo Guthrie, as he's deemed undraftable because of his criminal record as a litter bug. The movie is set in Stockbridge, Massachusetts, in the Berkshire Mountains, where my dad, after quitting college and successfully failing his draft review, moved and became a candle maker. It's where he met several of his lifelong friends, including Peach Blossom. Like my dad, Peach Blossom was an extra in the movie.
Yeah, I have a speaking line, which was rare. It was at the Thanksgiving dinner. Our VW van pulls up with the big TRA triangle on it, and we unload a donkey. I say, hey, you can ride him to Canada. And Billy says, I was wondering how to get my ass across the border. So it's a line in the thing.
Peach Blossom moved to the Berkshires after graduating from an Ivy League college. She and her crew of bohemian hippie friends worked odd blue-collar jobs and grew pot on their land. Peach Blossom pushed around a food cart, and she worked as a psychedelic baker at one point.
I used to make recipes in big buckets and just take a whole kilo of pot and make butter, in the water and let it seat, and then make brownies that would basically cripple people for weeks.
At this time in her life, Peach Blossom was a full convert to psychedelics and pot, and a proud hippie driving a beat-up VW van with long hair and bell-bottoms. Now, in many ways, Peach Blossom's story mirrors my dad's. She's a Brooklyn-born intellectual psychedelic enthusiast who eventually ended up in Northern California. She got out of smuggling in the late 70s, though, and she now works in medicinal herbs. She discovered hallucinogens while attending Cornell University, when friends introduced her to mescaline and the benefit of psychedelically communing with nature.
And I loved it. My world changed. My connection with nature just completely blossomed. I was talking to trees. I was sleeping with them. I was, there was no division between me and nature. And I felt like everyone should have that experience. So I'd love to turn you on. I mean, that becomes your mantra when the world is so new and we are the first wave of people actually experiencing this. When I went back to where my mother moved in Texas to visit my family, of course I stashed whatever drugs I could into tampons and resealed them. I found various ways to travel with as much weed as I could and psychedelics. And of course my mission was to go home and turn my mother on and turn my little sisters on. And this didn't go over very well, by the way, with my mother.
In the early 1970s, after Alice's restaurant, Peach Blossom moves back to New York City and becomes involved in high-stakes smuggling.
I moved to New York for a while, and I was involved in the pot world, and my partner at the time ended up going to prison.
Oh, no. Tell me about that. What happened?
He was involved in a brotherhood that went from California to the East Coast, transporting large amounts of both LSD and pot. But he was actually arrested for an LSD conspiracy. And we were living together on East 4th Street between A and B.
What year is this?
This is about 1970. When my partner on 4th Street, when he went to prison, we had a lot of cash in the apartment. We had suitcases of cash.
How much?
Oh, I'm sure we had $200,000 in cash at one point.
It's 1970.
Mm-hmm.
Holy shit.
And the part of the story that is really chilling is that when the feds came to get him for this LSD conspiracy, it was a federal bust. They got him on a conspiracy, which is a particular term meaning it's a federal charge. And in the apartment, they searched the apartment and they found a suitcase that had, I'm sure, $80,000 in it, and it was never reported.
They didn't report, they just took it.
The detectives took it.
That was just the cost of doing business.
Just what happened back in the day.
Peach Blossom moves west and is briefly immersed in LA's film scene. She's writing screenplays, but eventually feels compelled to escape the hardships inherent to LA. However, she needed money to return to New England. So she gets a job moving a steamer trunk of pot from LA to Boston.
I basically checked in a steamer, a big old-fashioned trunk filled with bricks of pot.
How many pounds?
30 pounds. But this is on, United Airlines.
Oh, my God.
This was the luggage I checked.
You checked this? You could just check luggage.
I checked it in. And at this point, I look like a sort of wild fashion model, and I'm pulling that off and dressing that way and talking that up. So I'm leaving LA and I'm going back to, to Boston. And I have to add, at this point, I'm using way too much cocaine.
Okay.
Yeah. This is my shot of courage to do that. But I'm also losing weight every second. I remember the moment where I walked to the back of the plane to the bathroom and went into the bathroom and basically my pants fell off. I mean, I was so skinny. It was just awful. I get to Boston and it is the first time in all my smuggling adventures that I freak out. I am I could be so busted here. And now I have to go down to baggage claim, and I have to claim my trunks. And now everyone looks like a Fed. Everyone looks like a cop. Everyone. I literally have to go into the bathroom, throw cold water all over myself, and I'm in a total lather of sweat and nerves, and I have to go with my claim ticket and claim this trunk, because I swear I'm going to get busted and put away forever. And I claim it, and it's absolutely fine. And as I'm leaving the Boston airport, there's a policeman, a Boston cop, and he's looking at me. Is a whole line of